were all my responsibility. Hey y'all, this is the apartment that Akasa Bainbridge provided me after I signed my lease. The show unit looks nothing like this. It looks clean at the least. I did have a Section 8 voucher at the time. I lost it. It was basically just due to negligence on, the housing office and this apartment complex's behalf. Anyone who knows about Section 8, you have to submit a landlord packet. Then they have to conduct an inspection. Once the apartment passes inspection, that is when you sign the lease and you move in. At least that's what the paperwork says. I did that, and this is the unit that they approved for my disabled daughter and I to move into. We were not from that county, so it was about between a 4-hour and a 6-hour drive, depending on where we were. Sometimes we are in Palm Beach, sometimes we are in Daytona. It just depends on my work schedule, to be honest. And this was just unacceptable. Y'all, this is the condition that the Akasa Bainbridge apartments are in. I mean, don't get me wrong. Some of the inside was nice. Looked like they just put down laminate floors and some carpet. The paint was horrible. The door did not close all the way. That's me looking it. And that is it still opening after the remodel. I don't see how this apartment passed the inspection or why they would even give this to someone. That was not my floor mat, by the way. That was there when I got there. And then in my lease, it said that the doors and the locks were all my responsibility.
Now, keep in mind, we're not talking about somebody leasing a regular apartment. This is a Section 8 apartment. And typically, my rule of thumb when it comes to Section 8 is really that beggars can't be choosers. Because to be honest, if you're applying for Section 8, what that's supposed to mean is that if you don't have shelter, then you will be spending the next few nights under a bridge. So I think we can argue that's better than under a bridge. But the way that a lot of people abuse the system is that they have people that they can stay with. So they're not technically homeless. Section 8 is just for them to be able to get their own place and then it be paid for. Now, that doesn't mean you should just put people anywhere. I agree. I definitely agree. But here's the main thing. Like, imagine, because we know how long these waiting lists are. And I think that's also what kind of comes into play in this dynamic. Imagine waiting half a decade and you know of people who get nice homes. I done seen some Section 8 homes that's in HOA areas. And by HOA areas, I mean you're in a nice house and you're in a location where everyone else keeps up with their house and you're really in a suburban neighborhood. I've seen that. So imagine you've got those type of aspirations and dreams of what it's going to be like when you finally get your turn up on the list, and then this is what you get. And so I think that could also be busting her bubble a little bit as far as what she was probably expecting. But we can never really get away from what this program actually is, which is you just need shelter ASAP, and then we can work everything else out. You just need to be away from the elements, but that's really not how most people are living. But again, you can't just put people anywhere either. So, y'all, before we get into the next clips, though, if you could like the video, I greatly appreciate it. Only takes a second, and it actually helps out more than you know. And it's literally just a click. So, if you're here anyway, you might as well click that like button. And also, if you can hype the video as well.
Should there be a time limit on Section 8 and low income housing? I personally feel like yes, there should be a time limit. And I'm going to take it a step further. I feel like if you are actively having more children while on Section 8, you need to
Yeah,
be booted off the list, canceled, and no longer allowed to even get it. Because
I always say that. That's what I'm talking about. I'm glad somebody said it. It took somebody in a bonnet and red glasses to say it, but at this point, I'll take all the help I can get because that message needs to get relayed. And I'm gonna be honest, I really feel like if you are on government assistance, these programs that are supposed to represent that if they had not came, then you would have been left to have to fend for yourself and you wouldn't have been able to do it. And ultimately, you would have been in survival mode with your current children. That's what that's supposed to represent. And so now, if you're telling me you still have time to be having fun when you're still under that urgent circumstance, as well as you're having reckless fun that has the potential to lead to you making your situation worse, I view that as fraud. That's fraud, in my opinion. I feel like you're really defrauding the system if you are already on the program and then you have more kids while you're on the program. That's fraud to me, and there's no way you can ever tell me that it's not. I'm not going to negotiate my opinion, but it's clear that she understands that too.
Limit on Section 8 in low income housing, I personally feel like, yes, there should be a time limit. And I'm going to take it a step further. I feel like if you are actively having more children while on Section 8, you need to be booted off the list, canceled, and no longer allowed to even get it. Because obviously, you cannot think critically. Now, on the flip side, I know that means you're probably going to be homeless. But unfortunately, baby, you're already brainless. So, like, what do you need a house for? Let me stop. That's not funny. But unfortunately, people really do be making stupid choices, and like the government assists you and they let you make these poor choices because they know that 9 times out of 10, you're going to need them even longer. So it's a bullshit toxic relationship between low income housing with low income housing recipients and or Section 8 recipients and the government, especially when you are not doing anything to get out of the situation. And the government is never going to push you to get out of it. If anything, they're going to boot you out of it for trying to get off. But I personally think that there needs to be limitations and you should not be allowed to reproduce while on Section 8. What's the fucking point? Should
And see, the problem always comes up. She was being facetious when she made that joke, as far as basically you should be homeless with your kids. That's where we step in, right? And that's how people are able to continue to take advantage of the system. Because regardless of the mistakes that the parents making or whatever the case may be, nobody wants to see the kids have to deal with the consequences because that's ultimately who's also going to have to be dealing with it and who we're going to see and really feel sad for. And so that's where it becomes a very complex situation. But honestly, because she mentioned that people don't have the critical thinking and that's why they keep making the mistake, I don't think it's that they don't have the critical thinking. But I think what it just truly is kind of what we're saying. I don't say it in a way where it's like I'm being mean about it, but I think you do need to make people have to deal with their responsibilities and their circumstances when they keep making the decisions because once you set the precedent that that's how things are going to be moving forward, then people will stop doing it. Right now, we have a system that incentivizes people to actually be on the program and then still procreate because then they'll get more benefits as a result and they won't be held responsible and we won't even question them about it. How do you have people who year over year continue to have children while they're on a program that says they're past poverty? They're past poverty. They're worse than poverty, impoverished. And we don't have a come to Jesus moment when they come back in that office and they report, yeah, I'm going to have to add another dependent onto my file. That already kind of lets you know something's off. But again, people are incentivized. If you take the incentivization away, people will no longer make these decisions. They're incentivized in a number of ways. It doesn't just have to do with government assistance, it also can do with child support laws. Imagine if there was a law that said, if you get pregnant by an NBA player, you ain't getting nothing. Do you think all these women would still be getting pregnant by NBA players if they knew they wasn't getting nothing? A lot of them women don't even want kids. They just know what's going to come with it when they have the kid. So if it happens on a grand scale like an NBA player, what makes us think that it can't start small as well? And I think it does start small. I think there is people using that same philosophy when it comes to government assistance and maybe the child support system who don't really want kids, but they know by having a kid, they'll then directly get revenue as well as help from a bunch of different sources And it'll ultimately make it to where they don't have to do anything and they'll be taken care of.
So guys, I'm making this video because I made a post about
The caption says, stop trying to make excuses of why you've been on Section 8 for 31 years. 31 years? Yeah, there's no excuse for being on Section 8 for 31 years. That's crazy. Wow. And then her description says, I don't care about y'all getting mad. Do better. That's what I'm talking about. I'm the same way.
So guys, I'm making this video because I made a post about people that have been on Section 8 since 1994. And I see a lot of you guys are getting upset about it. And I know most of you guys that are getting upset about it is because it's y'all. I don't care what any of you guys say. Stop making excuses for people that have been on that Section 8 for that long. You guys have been on there so long to the point that people that are trying to apply cannot get in. Those people have been on that wait list for 15 plus years. Because you guys got so comfortable without paying anything that you guys want to just stay and lower yourself like that. It should not be like that at all. Then you guys aren't mentioning how those people that aren't barely paying anything, they can't pay $20, $8 worth of rent. Also, these are same people that be moving strangers inside of their homes that's not supposed to be there. Let's not talk about that. These are the same people that's not bettering themselves. If they pay most of your rent, go to school and work part-time. Do something else with the extra time that you have. Y'all aren't talking about how these same people are continuously having more children on Section 8. Why are you doing that to them children? Why?
Yeah. The ones you already have. She's cooking. She's hitting all the points. Someone in her comments said this, though. I think this is important to flag. She said, her name is Lulu. She said, exactly. I was waitlisted for 7 years. In that time, I completed 2 degrees and purchased my first home. I know people wouldn't. I hate when people get their grammar wrong. I know people didn't do anything in that 7 years time frame, just straight laziness. So she said, I know people who didn't do anything in that 7 years, and they were just lazy, and they were just waiting to be up on the list, and that's what a lot of people are doing. Like that first woman, probably, who got that raggedy apartment. But why were you still on it? If you were making the improvements in your life, why were you still on the waiting list for 7 years, just waiting, just having it just in case? Because you're taking up space too, ultimately. You were getting your degrees. And another thing that we have to address is, if you're applying for the program now, you already know it's going to take half a decade at least. So it's almost like when you apply now, you're basically saying, I'm still going to be in poverty 5 years from now. So just hold my spot. Just like with this woman in the comments, her example gave. She was still on the list, taking up space, even though she was already getting her degrees and she was in the process of purchasing her home. I respect her for figuring it out, but why were you still on the list? And again, if you apply for the list, that's supposed to mean that you need shelter now. But people will just be waiting on the list and taking care of themselves, right? They're not starving, obviously. They're not whatever. They not without a home because you still are waiting. So it shows that there's a lot of people who are on the list who aren't in as dire need as they say. And then when they finally get up, when it finally becomes their opportunity, it's like they're trying to make it make sense. They're trying to make it work.
Same people are continuously having more children on Section 8. Why are you doing that to them children? Why? And y'all also are not talking about how these same people that's on there for years walking around here with expensive nails, expensive lace fronts, expensive lashes, I'm talking about going on vacation. You shouldn't be doing none of that if you on Section 8, baby. You need to be getting your life together, because that's just me. That's what I would have did if I was on it. Why I'm out here enjoying myself with the money that I need to be saving to get me a house? Y'all don't make no sense. Stop trying to take up because it's y'all. At the end of the day, it's still, the truth is the truth. And I understand that y'all can say that everybody's situation is different. I'm not talking about no people that's disabled. Stop.
Yeah, right. We got to stop going to the most extreme cases that aren't relevant in mass when we're addressing an issue. Life ain't perfect to where we can just encapsulate everything 100%. No, we have to make regulations, as well as we have to address problems that inflict the majority, not going to the minority. We always want to focus on the minority when we're trying to deflect from accountability. And that's the problem. And that's why we can never fix anything.
This situation is different. I'm not talking about no people that's disabled. Stop trying to throw that out there. We're not talking about them people. We're talking about the able-bodied people that's around here taking advantage. And y'all quick to say, oh, they can't
Yep.
do fraud. They report that. Girl, stop lying. I knew some people that was doing it. You can do fraud on that. You can literally do fraud on there. So
They can't do fraud. You can absolutely do fraud. The biggest fraud is you actually knowing in the back of your head you're not trying the best that you can, and you'd rather just wait on something. We can't necessarily expose that, but you ain't trying. As well as the biggest fraud is that we still don't address is, how do you keep getting pregnant? That's fraud. What's going through your mind? Why? The 3-letter word, why? Why are you pregnant again? Do we need to start giving whoopings at the government at the government assistance office? Where it's like, you're pregnant again? They need to start waitlisting these whoopings. They need to start saying, all right, how many months? Oh, you're 3 months pregnant? All right, in 6 months, if you want these benefits, after you've recovered and everything, come back. And and you need to get a whooping. A waitlisted whooping. Because it's like, it's got to be memorable so that we don't end up with you coming back here again talking about you pregnant again.
yeah, I just want to put that out there. I don't care about none of that y'all talking about. Get it together, please.
So before I go have this meeting that I don't want to go to, but I'm about to buy a cybersecurity company, so I gotta make it, even though I don't feel well. But yesterday,
Never mind. I ain't gonna say it.
so before I go have this meeting that I don't want to go to, but I'm about to buy a cybersecurity company, so I gotta make it, even though I don't feel well. But yesterday, I was watching this
His caption, what we're reviewing right here, says, I saw the craziest things on Section 8.
watching this video, and it was about basically Section 8. And the craziest entitlement I've seen with people that's on Section 8 for 30 years. There's one lady said, if you've been on Section 8 for 10 plus years, it's time to get your stuff together. It's time to start taking it serious. Like, for 10, 20, 30 years, and now that you only have 2 years on it, or they're kicking people off now, but now you only want it for 2 years. Now you want to get your stuff together. Now start getting serious. Like bro, like people play life like they're playing a PvP game or something like that. Like, do people understand that you're going to die and you're not going to come back? You guys just like literally was given birth to, and you just got on this damn earth and just started waiting, just wasted time. That is crazy. I don't even know how. It's so crazy. I don't know how to put it together. Like, the people just came here and just wasted time. And it's crazy. You're not coming back. Like, once you die, it's over. It's over. You get what I'm saying? So I was like, and then you don't have nothing to leave the kids. People were leaving generational welfare. It is insane, man. It's insane just to see. And it was one lady who was saying, it is the taxpayers' rights to take care of my children. So before.
Yeah, they better be glad I'm not in charge. They better be glad I'm not in charge. Because, man, if I was in charge, whoopings, might be a little bit too demeaning. I feel like there needs to be a designated bamboo stick in the government assistance office. And when you come in there talking about you pregnant again or whatever the case, again, not while they pregnant, I guess. But after the fact, man, you should have to come in there and you should have to put your hands on the desk like that. And then they be like, and you better not move. If you move, we gotta do it again. And they need to have that bamboo stick. They got bah! And because you're gonna remember that. So when you're thinking about having another kid, that's gonna be the first thing that comes up in your mind. Because bamboo ain't no joke. Bamboo, it'll tear you up. You might have to you might have to slice the stick in half. I don't think you can just have a solid one. Maybe not. Maybe we should get a back scratcher instead, or just a book, an encyclopedia, and just drop it. Because your hands, you'll be surprised. Your hands can recover pretty good, especially on the back end. And if you put them on something where they don't have the potential to bend or anything to actually break, people will be all right. But it'll be a painful and memorable experience because people can't. Apparently, the struggle that people are in currently is not memorable enough to be preventative and keep them from making self-inflicted decisions that are going to sabotage their own life. So it's like there's some discipline that you must not have got in childhood or something. So we're gonna have to resort to some type of discipline or some type of like real world physical consequence or something. That's clear that that's not rooted in frustration or aggression. It's just no, it's just what we do. Listen, I don't want to have to do this no more than you want to have to take this. But of course I'm being facetious, a little bit of tongue in cheek here. But I'm just saying, at the very least, there needs to be a conversation. There needs to be an interview where when you come in there and you have a new dependent to report, there needs to be an interview. There needs to be standardized questions that are direct and that require an answer, preferably open ended, because I really want to hear what was going through your mind. That needs to be the first question. What was going through your mind when you decided to have baby number 5 right now? When you decided to get pregnant with baby number 5, what was going through your mind? You've been on our program for a little over a decade now. It looks like it spans all the way back to when you applied for food stamps. And it looks like you've had Section 8 for about 6 years now. What was going through your mind? Tell us. Because you should actually, it's funny, man. Y'all love going to the courts and all this type of stuff and going back and forth in court. You should have to defend your case. You should have to state your case. So I'm not even saying just take it away. When I say take it away, take government assistance away. But you shouldn't know that you're going to still have it either. You should have to make a very good case. And it should be on paper and recorded. And then, we ain't going to say judged by a jury, but you should have to state your case very good. And we should have to be able to feel it and understand, okay, what was going through your mind? Should be apologetic, all that. And then now we have this recorded. If you want to come back here and then talk about you pregnant with number 6. Because now I was like, well, wait a second. We did this whole interview. Remember when you said here and you should pull up the questions or pull up the recording and say, how? Now you should go into the interview 2.0. We already asked what was going through your mind. Now it should just be, I don't even, it really should be what was going through your mind again. What was going through your mind again? That's how it should be worded. What was going through your mind again? Or what was going through your mind this time? You didn't learn nothing from the last one?
Section 8, baby, let's talk about it. Section 8 is a blessing. It was created to help people who are struggling, not as a trap, but as a trampoline. It's supposed to give folks room to breathe while they rebuild. Mentally, financially, emotionally, spiritually. Let's be real, not everybody uses this like that. Instead of elevating, some people are doing everything that they can to stay stuck. And it's not because they can't grow. It's because they've grown comfortable and struggle. The first thing is, if I make too much money, they'll raise my rent. So instead of leveling up their income, people start turning down hours, quitting jobs, choosing under the table work. They can keep their rent low. They fear abundance because they believe to condition that more success equals less support. What they don't realize is they're capping their own potential just to stay small. A lot of people feel like, why leave if I'm comfortable? Some folks get used to paying $0 to $20 of rent, so they just stop striving. They stop planning to own a home, improving their credit, or breaking generational curses. They just sit. Meanwhile, people with the real needs, single mom with disabled kids, the elderly, folks on disability, are sitting on the waiting list for years. They attach their identity to struggle. Struggle becomes familiar. Growth feels uncomfortable. So they stay where it's safe. They don't have to change, risk, or expand. It's not always laziness. Sometimes it's trauma and fear. But the result is the same. They block their own elevation. Some people like to game the system. Lying about who lives in the home, not reporting full income, having partners who live rent-free but aren't on the lease. Then they'll get mad at the system and they're the ones manipulating it. This isn't survival anymore, baby. That's entitlement. But here's who hurts in the process. Disabled parent who's trying to get safe housing for their child in a wheelchair. Young G woman fresh out of a DV relationship who's working 2 jobs and still can't afford rent or a place to stay. Grandmother who's raising her grandkids with no support and no.
I really didn't want to interrupt her because she's on such a high streak. I could really just let her just keep going. But we got to cut in here. And this is the point that I make as well. When you're abusing the system, you're actually putting in hurdles and putting in new timelines that now restrict and afflict the people who actually need it. The people who are actually in emergency situations have to then go on a waiting list because people who are pursuing their bachelor's degree and who are in the process of buying a house are still on the waiting list, taking up space. Still a name on the waiting list, taking up space. People who have family that they can stay with. And while they're staying with their family, they could be trying to get on their feet, but instead will decide that, no, I'm just not going to do nothing because I don't want to show no income or I don't want to show this, that, and the third to be able to make me ineligible for the program when my time comes up. Or maybe learned how to do a certain skill under the table, like doing hair, so you don't have to report that income, so you can still be waiting, even though you're actually doing good in life and you actually intend on abusing the system because you know that you can make money under the table, but still have all your bills paid for and now be able to live an elevated life. This is the type of thing we see, and it affects the people who really need it. And that's why I feel like that's the real evil part about this all.
Relationship, who's working 2 jobs and still can't afford rent or a place to stay. Grandmother who's raising her grandkids with no support and no place to stay. They're not asking for handouts. They're asking for a chance. The chance is taken by people who don't want to grow because their rent will change. Section 8 is not the problem. The mindset is. Let's be clear, crystal fucking clear. This is not about race either. White people are on Section 8, Hispanic folks, Asians, black people. Okay, so it's nothing about race. This isn't a race issue. It's a personal responsibility issue. We need to stop letting shame, comfort, or fear keeping us from stepping up or stepping off when the time is right. Nobody is saying get off tomorrow. Nobody is saying that you don't deserve help. I'm not saying that. But if you're sitting on Section 8 year after year, not working, not growing, not healing.
Christine in the comments said, I know a family that has kept their Section 8 for 3 generations. 3 generations. Somebody said, on Section 8 for 3 years, got a degree and certified. Rent was raised, so I let it go and moved to a better neighborhood. It was designed to help people, and that's what I allowed it to do for me. I elevated. Carlos said, I'm really not concerned about other people living off Section 8 because when they open that Section 8 list, the same people that downplaying others are the same ones ready to fight over the application. Okay, I don't know what that means. But yeah, ultimately, you have people who have had these things for a long time. For a long time, which that's abusive in itself. Because it's just been too sweet for too long. It's been too sweet for too long. And anything that's sweet, people are going to try to see how they can fit into the equation. And ultimately, how they can get a little piece of the pie. But there are some pies that just aren't designated for you. And this is what we saw when we saw so many people try to take advantage of what? The PPP loans. Loans that was designed for businesses who were actually going through a hard spot. So what do people start doing? Everybody start trying to open up an LLC and do all type of things. Or maybe just lie altogether and trying to get funds, take advantage of something that isn't designated for them. And this is what we see across a lot of different sectors and verticals as a whole. So that's why we got to address it. But y'all, we'll leave it there for today. If you could like the video, I greatly appreciate it. Only takes a second and it actually helps out more than you know. And it's really just a click again. And again, it helps out more than you can know. And then also if you can hype the video as well. Hype is a new feature that YouTube offers where it helps smaller content creators like myself. And basically when you hype, it actually pushes us to the extent that it pushes the larger content creators. So you just press the hype button and it shows the points. And since I am a smaller creator, a smaller channel, we actually get more points per hype. And hype was designed for smaller channels. So that's why. But if you come across a video and you don't see the hype button, then it's probably been over 7 days. And hype usually vanishes after 7 days. So it's usually best practice if you want to hype to just go ahead and hype while the iron is hot on a newer video. And also if you want to become a member of the channel as well, the join button's on the video. And what becoming a member of the DXU family will come with is you would get badges next to your comments where it would show people that you are a member whenever you leave a comment, as well as you would get early access to content and also exclusive content that's not available for everyone else on YouTube. So again, if you want to become a member, the join button's on the video. But until then, I'll see you in the next video.